Welcome to another Infographic Instant with Brian Michael. In this episode, we'll be looking at whether legal and financial advisors specialize during investment waves. The infographic you see in front of you is part of a larger study assessing the extent to which big law firms and large investment banks specialize, or what methods they use in order to capture opportunities for advising Chinese firms during the going out policy, which lasted roughly from 2000 until 2014 and is ongoing. Before we look at the data specifically, we should keep in mind the two theories of advisor competitiveness. The first theory is that advisors seek to enhance their competitiveness by specializing. Some advisors might specialize in areas such as industrial clients, materials clients, or consumer staples, because by showing these prospects that they specialize in these areas, they will increase their chances of attracting these customers. The second theory is what we call the garbage can approach, and that's from organizational theory. The garbage can approach sees advisor relationships occurring completely by accident, coming together in the same way that things are thrown at random into a rubbish bin. So in this approach, a completely random distribution of the way advisors couple with customers, or even the way advisors couple with each other, both on the same side of a mergers and acquisitions transaction and on the opposite side, this is best represented by a random distribution of some kind. So, turning our attention now to the data coming from China's going out policy, we see no significant specialization among law firms and financial advisors during the going out policy period. Looking at the top part of the infographic, we see that during this period, Morgan Stanley was the largest financial advisor, followed closely by Credit Suisse, Citigroup, JP Morgan, and UBS. However, we do not see any kind of specialization. JP Morgan had the largest percent of its transactions, and these transactions are measured as head counts, not as values of transactions. Morgan Stanley and Citi come in a close second, whereas in UBS clearly has the lowest proportion of finance-related deals. However, we cannot see any kind of specialization, such, for example, one bar is filled with these cross lines, red cross lines, which represent industrials-based clients. And we also cannot see any kind of specialization in consumer discretionary or consumer staples goods. Perhaps, on the other hand, there is some kind of specialization towards state-owned enterprise clients. Yet we see the data show that none of these financial advisors tend to focus very heavily on state-owned enterprises. Of course, this depends on your perspective. Looking at Citigroup's 68% of their portfolio as state-owned enterprises, compared with JP Morgan's 15% state-owned enterprises, one might be able to make the argument that Citigroup has specialized to deal with government bodies or government-sponsored, financed, or related bodies, whereas in JP Morgan has specifically tried to avoid them. However, looking across these top 5 advisors, it's very difficult to say that there is some pattern of specialization among them. Looking now at the bottom part of the infographic, this looks at, in the paper, we call big law firms. And these are the largest legal advisors to China's going out companies. And we see, again, the same lack of specialization in terms of their clients, again using a head count measure, not looking at the value of the transactions that these advisors dealt with. So we see that White and Case probably had the highest proportion of finance-related clients, whereas in Skadden Arps had no finance-related clients during this period of note. Again, just like the financial advisors, we see that none of the law firms seem to specialize in state-owned enterprises as opposed to private-only firms, with Freshfields having the largest proportion of its portfolio as state-owned enterprises at 61%, and in contrast, White and Case coming in at about 30%. So the conclusion that we can reach from this infographic is that during a large investment wave such as that represented by the mergers and acquisitions boom during China's going out policy, we do not see any kind of specialization. As we will describe in further infographics, that is actually not true amongst the smaller advisors who sought to compete against the large advisors exactly by specializing their overall strategy, not necessarily only by looking at particular types of clients. This has been another Infographic Instant with Brian Michael.